Larry Kudlow here for Colonial Metals Group. Ask yourself, is your retirement protected? Gold is the one asset that's surged through every war and economic shock. Please call 800-621-3908. That's 800-621-3908. Or just visit freegoldguide.com/Kudlow to claim your free 2025 gold guide. You'll learn how to protect your IRA or 401k and could qualify for up to $7,500 in free silver. That's freegoldguide.com/Kudlow.
The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends. It is your Saturday morning vibe, your Saturday morning extravaganza, and I'm glad you're here to be part of it. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. I am James Golden, Bo Snerdley. Welcome. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Coming up on today's show, Lizzie Rattoballi will be joining us, as well as America's Most Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Shrock, later in the show. Princess Diana is, this is a travel day for her, still on vacation. Hopefully she'll be with us next week. I'm looking forward to catching up with you. The big story from our opening soundbite, and there are a lot of stories. Letitia James, which is a delicious irony, is that story has come up, that erupted yesterday and the day before. Delicious. And the screaming and moaning about how the DOJ has been politicized from the left. They're complaining about that. After what we have seen in the past few years in America, it's just stunning that they can say these things without any pause, without looking back at their behavior as a political party. But my friends, I have so many stories this morning from different sources regarding redistricting and what is happening with Texas. Overnight, court ruled that Beto O'Rourke's group cannot fund the Democrats who have managed to escape purposely from Texas in order to stop the legislature there from doing its business. Beto O'Rourke says he's not going anywhere. I don't know whether that means he intends on breaking the law or not, and continuing to try to fund Democrats in their effort. There has been a lot, and I do want to spend some time with that this morning. A judge, as I said, Texas judge, ruled yesterday that Beto O'Rourke's nonprofit can't continue to fund this effort to do the funding for Texas Democrats who fled the states. And the judge, it's a Tarrant County District Judge, Megan Farry, handed down a temporary restraining order against Beto O'Rourke and his group Powered by People over their alleged unlawful fundraising practices tied to efforts to support the Democrats who fled. Defendants have and will continue to engage in unlawful fundraising practices and utilization of political funds in a manner that either directly violates or causes Texas Democratic legislators to violate the law, she wrote. And so what they're saying is that the the legislature has suffered irreparable harm through these unlawful acts because they're making political contributions that are being used to fund personal expenses, and that's a violation of state law. Now, again, we will see whether that will stop some of the fundraising. Also, Soros' name, and I rarely talk about Soros. He's the catch-all boogeyman, but the Soros organization, and there's a reason for that, by the way, because he is involved in so many things. But some of the funding is alleged to have come from the Soros organization, but I don't have the required proof to actually make that claim 100%. So I'll just say it has been mentioned in some of the news articles that I've read, but I haven't seen proof. It wouldn't surprise me if they're involved, but I have not seen enough proof that I can say definitively, yes, they are doing it. Now, the stakes are high. Right now, let me just go through some of the headlines and then we will delve into some of it. Newsom says special election on California redistricting is planned for November. So, California is going to try to step in, quote unquote, nullify what they're doing in Texas by kicking even more Republicans out. Newsom hosts Texas Democrats breaking quorum over redistricting. Says California will nullify GOP action in Texas. Another headline, this from The Hill this morning. 7 states most likely to follow Texas in redistricting. So far the number is 7 states. Not all of them Democrat states, although some big ones are. New York, Kathy Hochul is threatening, even though she redistricted and did not wait. It's a stunning. In fact, I think we have Hochul. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think we have Hochul claiming that Democrats always follow the law, which is just laughable. Anybody that has followed what Democrats do and what Democrats done know better. Yeah, it is. It's cut 7. Let's listen to Kathy Hochul for a minute weigh in on this, and this is Governor of New York.
If this is how they're going to play the game, we're going to fight fire with fire. I didn't want to take on this fight. I've always followed the rules. Democrats always follow the rules. When we're willing to do this to subvert our democracy, shame on us if we don't stand up. So I will get it done in 2028 if necessary. If they continue down this path, and of course they can stop. They want to stop this game. They can stop right now, and we'll stand down as well. But until then, we're not going to be on the sidelines. So 2026, I'll do what I did last year. I worked with Hakeem Jeffries, and we won 5 out of 7 battleground states or seats in Congress for Hakeem Jeffries. We got him that close to becoming Speaker. How important this is now more than ever to see what Donald Trump is doing to this country. And you know why they undertook this whole exercise? I'm convinced because they saw the polling for next year, and they're going to be obliterated next year because of all the Trump policies that are hurting New Yorkers in Republican districts as well. So they saw this. They said they're in a panic. What can we do? Well, you know what? Let's change the rules in the middle of the game and see if anybody tries to stop us. Well, places like California, New York, Illinois, we're not sitting on the side. We're going to be involved in this fight to the bitter end.
Fine. But this idea that Democrats always follow the rules, folks, how many times over the past 30 years have we talked about where rules are, Democrats ignore them intentionally? Look at the biggest rule that underlies all of this. The law regarding immigration. We always follow the rules. New York City is a sanctuary city. They disobey the law, the rules. California is a sanctuary state, and in it, some of the largest sanctuary cities in the country. You can go and look at state after blue state after blue state. The reason that they have as many congressional seats as they have is because they don't follow the rules. So this woman sits and claims that they're following the rules, and she alluded to it. Well, Hakeem Jeffries and I did it last year. What did they do? They redistricted because Republicans won 5 seats in New York in the previous election cycle, and they were so ticked off by it, they made sure to rewrite the districts so that Republicans could lose. And this woman has the audacity to sit and pretend to be a victim, like this whole victimhood mentality of the Democrat Party. We're always the victims. They are the culprits. They are the reason all of these things are happening. More on that later. But there are 7 states that are likely to follow, so let's go through those when we get back. We're going to take a quick break here. James Golden, welcome again. Saturday morning, 800-848-9222 if you want to weigh in on any of this. And by the way, there are other things in the news besides this, and we're going to cover as many of them as we can today. There are so many interesting stories. Mexico's president, the president, Donald Trump, says, okay, it's time for our military, Pentagon. The military is going to get involved in trying to shut down some of these drug cartels that have been flooding America with illegal drugs, killing American citizens, causing all kind of mayhem. And the El Presidente of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, is rejecting the use of U.S. military forces in her country. She said the United States is not going to come to Mexico with military. We cooperate, we collaborate, but it's not going to be an invasion. It's not any part of any agreement, far from it. She's complaining. The American U.S. forces are not unwelcome in Mexico is the headline. Well, you want to talk about, again, how many people from Mexico are in the United States illegally, and this has been looked on. We don't care about America, and these cartels have been responsible for it. So if this is what Miss Sheinbaum wants, she should be glad. And why isn't she? That the American government wants to help eradicate these cartels. Why is she in a position where it sounds like she's defending the cartels? There's a reason for it. And we can get into that so much more. James Golden, a.k.a. Snerdley. Oh, yeah. You know who that is. ACDC. One of my favorites. On this day in 1980, AC/DC scored their first album that went number one, Back in Black. James Golden Snerdley with you. It is Saturday morning. That'll wake you up.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The year was 1975. Good year for the Bee Gees. They were at number one. It was their second U.S. number one single. It went up to number 5 in their native over across the pond. The Bee Gees here on your Saturday morning vibe. Your calls welcome, 800-848-9222. Democrats excel at that. Okay. So here's where we are. Of course, you know Gavin Newsom has declared that he's going to get involved. Ohio is another state that could get involved in this redistricting. State lawmakers are required to approve a new map ahead of the midterms because the current election maps in Ohio, which have been in place since 2022, was only approved by a simple majority along party lines, rather than a bipartisan supermajority. So, Republicans could potentially pick up 1 or 2 seats in Ohio. The 2 Democrat lawmakers that are most likely to be affected by this, Marcy Kaptur and Amelia Sykes. Of course, it would be a boon to Republicans if Ms. Kaptur departs. Also, then California. California poses a threat because they already have such a strong supermajority. They can act at will, which they do. And California has an independent commission that is supposed to remain intact for reapportionment after the 2030 census, but what they're thinking about doing is they're going to move forward with a special election in November, and that would allow them to create a new map that would stay in place through the next census. And what they'll just do is, and by the way, I think that there is a strategy, and I'll get to this later. I think one thing ought to happen if California does act on this, since everyone's playing hardball, and it involves the DOJ, but I'll get to that in a minute. Florida, Ron DeSantis has signaled when Trump was down there, when President Trump was there with Ron DeSantis at the opening of Alligator Alcatraz, he indicated he would be open to redistricting. Of course, Republicans have control politically of the state. Florida State House Speaker Daniel Perez announced Thursday of this week he's going to form a redistricting committee that would explore possible maps and how the lines for districts are drawn in Florida. Now, some of the Democrats that could be affected in Florida include Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Jared Moskowitz. Among another, there's another guy, Darren Soto, over there, but of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is the best known, and she could be out of a job. So Republicans might be able to pick up 3 seats in Florida. Indiana is another one. If approved, a new map might yield 1 seat, that of a representative there, Frank Marvin, who is from the northwest corner of the state there. Missouri is another red state that has indicated they may jump in the mix. They have 1 seat that they're likely to target, that of Emmanuel Cleaver, and you watch if that happens, the howls of racism, which Democrats go to for everything, that would come up. But a lot of Republicans in Missouri they're not enthusiastic about this. New York, we talked about. Now, New York uses an independent commission to draw its lines with approval from the state legislature. But the way that things need to go to, this might take a while. They use an independent commission, as I said, but the amendment has to pass in 2 consecutive sessions of the legislature before being approved by voters. That would mean no change could go into effect until ahead of the 2028 elections at the earliest. But Hochul is saying she's looking at all Miss I follow the rules Democrats. She's looking to see how she can get around the rules, which of course Democrats excel at. Anyway, my friends, we've reached the halfway point in this hour. Stay with us. Your calls again welcome, 800-848-9222. Whatever you do, do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ah, yes. I don't know what age you have to be to remember this. But many of you do. Tomorrow's the anniversary of Isaac Hayes passing away at his home in Memphis, Tennessee. He was just 65 years of age. His wife found him unconscious. This won an Oscar for him back in 1971. Of course, Isaac Hayes was also the voice of Chef on South Park. South Park has been ripping the Trump administration a new one the last few weeks. They had the Kristi Noem. They mocked her. She offered a response to it because they attacked her looks. And I don't know how anybody could attack Kristi Noem's looks. Now, they might attack some of the costumes that she wore. Costumes. She's out in uniform. She earned the nickname Ice Barbie with the dress up and all that stuff. But I don't think anybody can deny that Kristi Noem's a good-looking woman. You know, South Park, they have all this courage. They've mocked everybody you can think of except one person during the entire years that Joe Biden was in the White House. South Park could not find one thing to mock Joe Biden, but they are going all after Trump. Have him sleeping with Satan, in a homosexual relationship with Satan. They did that with Saddam Hussein years and years ago. They reprised the idea. Of course, after Isaac Hayes left, they were vicious with him. So, you know, so much for South Park. Isaac Hayes. I mean, yeah, he's known for Shep, but let me tell you, as a songwriter, he was with Stax Records for many years. And his catalog of music is just incredible. In fact, I saw him live at Madison Square Garden on my first real date when I was a kid. And Isaac Hayes turned it out. I mean, he had a great orchestra with him. It was a full orchestra, pretty much. And he, not just a vocalist, played vibes, played alto saxophone fluently. He was great musician. And he's behind so many hits for other people, too, as a songwriter. Very prolific. So, missing Isaac Hayes. James Golden and Snerdley, we were talking about before the break. And by the way, if you're calling, just be patient. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. We'll get your call as soon as possible. We're talking about New York and the fact that New York, if they're going to follow the rules, they can't really respond to this before the midterms in 2026. But you heard Kathy Hochul earlier claiming that Democrats follow the rules while actively seeking ways to get around the rules and the laws. Okay, so the rules are whatever they are that day, and they'll find a way to get past them. Kathy Hochul is sickening. But New York is going down the tubes. You have Kathy Hochul as governor, which she's beyond belief incompetent. And then you have this Mamdani character who looks like he may be in a position to win. May. You've got some other great candidates running in New York I shouldn't say. You have one who has spent his life trying to protect the people of New York. That would be Curtis Lewa. You have Andrew Cuomo, who's putting up a strong challenge now that everyone's petrified of Mamdani. And, of course, Eric Adams, right, who I think most New York City residents are just totally disgusted with if I'm reading the mood and atmosphere in New York properly. Getting back to redistricting, New Jersey is also in the mix. But here's the thing. With New Jersey, once again, the rules. New Jersey has an independent commission. So they would have to overcome that independent commission, plus there is a constitutional amendment that would have to be changed because the Constitution in New Jersey specifically, it says it black and white. They can't do mid-decade redistricting, but Democrats and the rules. So They need a 3-month notice period before voting on an amendment. They could try to replace it. But this past Monday was the deadline for getting a new constitutional amendment on the ballot in time for the November elections, the off-year election. So what's going to happen? We'll see whether New Jersey does what Democrats do a lot and break the rules that Kathy Hochul claims Democrats always follow. Not. Folks, give me 1 second here. I have to take care of some cold business. Thank you. We don't want you to hear people blowing their nose on the air. I've had a cold for the past summer cold. Anybody that's going through summer colds, you know what misery summer colds are, but it's all good. We're here. Okay. So, what to do? There's a long Washington Post story today about the Democrats' risky gambit to fight fire with fire over election maps. In fact, Kelvin, that other cut from the last one that I sent you from the Texas House? It's a little bit lengthy. Let me see if I can find that, because I know you got that in there. Texas is not just taking this laying down. So yesterday there was activity. Democrats supposed to be back again at their jobs. They weren't. And so this is what happened in the Texas House, even though there was no quorum present. This is what took place yesterday.
Here's where we are at today. Yesterday, Attorney General Ken Paxton and I took action to domesticate the civil arrest warrants in the state of Illinois, seeking to make them enforceable beyond Texas state lines. I expect suits in other states will be forthcoming. Chairman Guerin of House Administration has also contacted the Sergeant-at-Arms of Illinois House of Representatives requesting their direct assistance in returning absent members. I have been in constant communication with Department of Public Safety, which has been working to track down absent members in an effort to return them to our chamber. These efforts will continue through the weekend. For those that have fled to Illinois or to California, be reminded that the FBI's assistant has reportedly been enlisted, and their powers are not confined to any singular state's boundaries.
Good.
As far as new administrative policies in our chamber go, Comptroller Kelly Hancock and I have enacted a new policy stating that any member absent for the purpose of breaking quorum will no longer have their paycheck or per diem deposited electronically. While the Constitution forbids us from withholding pay, it does not dictate how we issue the pay. Those checks must now be picked up in person on Capitol grounds, effective immediately. Starting today, to safeguard taxpayer dollars and account for forthcoming liabilities, under Rule 5, Section 3 of House Rules, which authorizes fines for members absent without leave, 30% of each quorum-breaking member's monthly operating budget will be reserved and made unavailable for expenditure. Absent members must also appear in person to approve or enact any of the following: requests for travel reimbursement, personal action requests, including those increasing or decreasing staff salaries, approval for newsletters and House of Reproduction services. Failure to appear in person will result in the cancellation of your newsletters and the encumbered funds. We have all hands on deck. We are continuing to explore new avenues to compel a quorum, and will keep pressing forward until the job is done. Finally, today, Dr. Greg Bonin will file House Bill 3, the House's priority legislation for flood recovery and infrastructure funding, developed after 25 hours of testimony from Texans whose lives were upended by the July 4th floods. To those in California, Illinois, New York, or Massachusetts, wherever you may be, hear this. The bill cannot be referred to committee without a quorum. Every hour you remain away is time stolen from those Texans in need. Each one of you knows that eventually you will come back.
Yeah,
and
right.
we will pass the priorities of the special session on the call. But with each passing day, the political cost of your absence is rising, and it will be paid in full. For the members' presence, I expect everyone to be here on Monday at the absolute latest. DPS is in the field to execute these warrants. Should they lead to the civil arrest of our absent colleagues over the weekend, you are on call. You will need to be available to return to Austin with a minimum of 6 hours of notice.
Okay, well, that's enough. That's enough of that. Look, they're trying to take action. Now, that's for this FBI business. Don't expect much. I was surprised the FBI, John Cornyn, who's running for re-election, by the way, Senator Cornyn there, mostly Rhino, has called in the FBI, and that was, I think, to look tough. I think that has to do more with his re-election bid than with actual diligence as to changing what is happening. Because the FBI, do you really expect that the FBI is going to go in and arrest Texas Democrats in these states? I don't see it. It would be nice if they did, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I just don't see that happening. So what to do? Especially with California and some of these other states. Democrats are, number one, doing this because they can. The only reason that that the House of Representatives is competitive, that this is a competitive election between Democrats and Republicans, is because for the past 30, 40, 50 years, Democrats have used illegal immigrants to pad the numbers in their states. California would lose a lot of seats if there were no illegal immigrants in the population of California. They might lose more than 6, 7, who knows how many seats. In Los Angeles alone, over 10% of the population, and many believe it's higher, are illegal immigrants. When you look at the rest of the state, there is no question. We might be talking, folks, over 2 million people in California alone are illegal immigrants. So that has given the delegations of California in the House, New York, which is also heavy laden with illegal immigrants, Massachusetts, where not one Republican, Massachusetts has not one Republican in Congress. Maryland has only one, and they're going to try to get rid of that one. So what should be the Republican response to all of this that's going on? I think it's very simple. I think the first Republican response to Gavin Newsom, to California, is dedicate a high percentage of the new hires that will be ICE agents. You know, they have over 80,000 applicants for the 10,000 jobs that they're thinking about adding. Hire those ICE agents as soon as possible. Get them trained as soon as possible. And then send 1 or 2, 3,000 of them to California. We've already seen what the presence of ICE agents has done in LA. Spread it across the entire state. Concentrate your efforts to make sure to reduce the illegal immigrant population in the state of California. And then, my friends, Democrats want to play hardball, play hardball. pull out the district by district election maps and target Democrat districts in every single high population Democrat area with ICE, where there are sanctuary cities, where you have these illegal immigrants padding the numbers. Donald Trump has already said he's once again going to try to eliminate counting illegal immigrants in the census. That is going to be a long, protracted battle that will probably end up at the Supreme Court again. But you can take action in the meantime. Target Democrat sanctuary states and sanctuary cities and just start delivering on the deportations in heavy concentrated areas. That's number one. Number two, if California decides that they want to do this, use the DOJ Civil Rights Division. Now, this would cause a little bit of upset because it hasn't been done before. But when the Voting Rights Act was passed, there were several Republican states that had court monitoring for decades. Because that's what Democrats did. They didn't look at themselves and said, Democrats were responsible for Jim Crow and oppressing the black vote. They targeted Republican states. Had all kind of voter restrictions. But what needs to happen in California, what needs to happen in these other states, let's just call it what it is. It is voter suppression. And they have used race, they have used all of it to do it. By this heavy influx of illegal immigrants that is now padding the Democrat numbers, whose votes are they suppressing? They are suppressing the votes of people that are not, quote unquote, people of color. So if you live in certain states, your vote is being suppressed by you're not having a fair representation because Democrats have cheated using illegal immigrants. So get the civil rights arm of the DOJ involved and make them make the case that non-people of color in certain states have had their votes suppressed by this illegal immigration and congressional, make it a court case. Go to court with it. Wouldn't be popular. You'd have all kind of screaming and yelling, but Democrats scream and yell anyway. Take them to court on what they have done and sue them under the Voting Act. Sue them for violating the civil rights of Americans by suppressing their votes. Democrats would do it. These guys want to play hardball with them every step of the way. James Golden, Snerdley, one of my favorites. Because I love the music so much. This is the Ode to Adultery. This is Adultery's Fine With Me. If I can sing it in a beautiful voice. And who can't say that her voice wasn't beautiful? Whitney Houston. This was her debut hit. Resisting. Being last. But she went there anyway. She was saving all that for her married man. Whitney Houston, number one on this day. Well, in 1985, she was at number one with the song that year, 1985. But she was born. Today's Whitney Houston's birthday. Heavenly birthday, born in 1963. Which means, Kelvin, we can play some other stuff for Whitney if you want to. Aside from this, the Ode to Adultery. Keep it right here. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
For a lot of music fans, Jerry Garcia, guitarist, singer with the Grateful Dead, passed away on this day in 1995. I remember this. You know, Rush took a little heat for he made some remark about Jerry Garcia that caused a lot of Grateful Dead fans to be upset. Man, and it seems like yesterday, 30 years ago. It's just insane how quickly time is going. Anyway, Jerry Garcia passed away of a heart attack. He was in rehab at the time. One of the greatest guitar players of all time, according to Rolling Stone. He's up there in the top 20 guitar players of all time. We got to go. Hour number uno in the can. Hour number duo coming up. Whatever you do, keep it right here. Do not go away. Welcome, my friends. Hour number duo of the Saturday Morning Vibe here. Glad you're along for the ride. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. 800-848-9222. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Red Apple Media star anchorette. She is the voice of her generation, and what a generation it is. And she is also the defender of the new working class among that generation, the advocate for the poor, oppressed workers struggling to find their way in the world. Our very own Lizzie Rattoballi is here. Lizzie, good morning.
Good morning, Bo, and struggle that we do. How you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, Lizzie. I am hanging in there. I got a summer cold, Lizzie.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst this time of year. It's like something shifts in the air, and the wildfires. I mean, my skin is breaking out. I'm miserable. So I'm
you California's burning up again. Some places at 5,000 acres, like the Canyon Fire. I love they have names for these. This is the Canyon Fire. So California's burning up again. Canada has had wildfires.
The Grand Canyon itself. Like, I mean, it's just the whole world's burning. But you know, we still, nevertheless, we rise.
We rise. So, talk to me, Lizzie, about this story you sent me earlier to take a look at. Students have been called to the office, even arrested, using what with AI?
So school surveillance systems have been now using AI to kind of monitor their students. So, this shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody that if you're on a school network, they're tracking everything you do. I mean, you sign up. This is kind of like part of the problem with, technology and privacy, greater concerns of privacy, is that, in these terms and conditions, which are always, epic odysseys worth of text. I mean, you don't really, I've never met someone who reads those terms and conditions, but they have in those terms and conditions things that you might not know, like, all your locations are being tracked by the school, even when you're not on school grounds. Like, we can see your cell phone data, like where it's pinged you, and we could also monitor all your texts and chats and your messages. So that's what happened in this case. There was a 13-year-old girl who was, she got in trouble because she made a joke about Mexican people, and the AI interpreted her joke as a threat of mass harm. So she was arrested, she was strip searched, she was held in jail for some time, and she even then had to go on house arrest, go through a psych evaluation, and then 20 days at an alternative school. So huge consequence here for basically it's not good what she did. Obviously, like making jokes about entire races of people. That's, really, that's not something that we encourage as a society.
Was she in school when she did that, or was she when she made this text, or was this one where they were monitoring just her
Yeah, see, that is not exactly clear. She was apparently she was arrested in August, and she was texting with friends on a chat function that was tied to her email with the school. So it's not exactly clear. She could have been off campus at the time this happened and just been using, like it mentions, this account that's tied to her school account. So that too, like anytime you sign up for these accounts, part of that is giving them permission to pretty much access everything on your device. I mean, it's insane. These kinds of things, these articles, these stories really make me kind of into a Luddite. And something that these students point out is that, you know, they're being held to a very strict and severe standard. I mean, could you imagine if all of your conversations with your friends in middle school and 8th grade were monitored and reported on?
No, I can't.
Yeah. So you gotta kind of sympathize with the kids.
And can you imagine? Wait a minute. Can you imagine, Lizzie, what some kids do on these? We already know. With and I don't want to get to, but you know the pictures and the this, the that, and the other, and yeah. That's interesting you bring that up, because when I was reading this article and it's talking about how these school surveillance, it dives deep into all these different AI systems and these school surveillance systems that schools are contracted with. There's a few different companies. There's this one big one that they mentioned, Gaggle. Apparently it could access like all your photos devices. If you're on a school network, then as long as you're on that school network, the school has access to all your photos. Like, so, I did kind of think like, wow, so does Gaggle have like files and files of just like a nefarious image of children from these schools? Because that's something that maybe we want to look into. And yeah, like I mentioned, you feel for these kids because they're being held to these strict standards that were never in place before. I mean, I think back. Well, here's the solution. And by the way, this is happening, in Texas, and some other locations are now banning cell phones at all on the school campus.
Well, okay.
They're just
banning
them.
I would say that's not the solution. That may be the solution for, the in-school operations, cut down on distractions and, make teachers' lives easier. I'm sure that, in general, the bell-to-bell school bans that's going around, we have one in New York State that's happening now. I am in support of those, but I don't think it's the solution to this issue, unfortunately, because, they have access. Once you're on the network, they have access to your off-campus activity. They as long as you use a school email, they have access to your device. I mean, that's insane. I don't even know how that is like logistically possible, that you use a school email and then all of a sudden it has access to your phone. I mean, that does raise a lot of questions, a lot of concerns.
It does. But I stopped using the school's network. Well, you have hotspots that are available on your own, where you can stay on your own private network. Yeah,
and no, that's absolutely something people can do. But what about the emails? The fact that you sign up for an email and now you have the network is forever.
Don't sign up for it.
I mean,
tell them screw it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, but kids don't have a choice with these things. Like they get assigned these emails, and they have to sign up for these portals with these emails to do their assignments. Everything is online now. Everything is digital. In order to do their work, they have to do these things. So it's not even like they have an option.
The only other solution is to actually have some lawsuits dealing with privacy matters and restrict look, just because they are children doesn't mean that they don't have rights regarding privacy.
Of course.
Well, apparently they don't.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, the school educational system clearly doesn't afford them that. But there have been, I will mention there have been Supreme Court cases in the past that deal with privacy in terms of students. Like if students are subject to searches, like random searches on campus, and in the past, the Supreme Court has sided, really against student privacy in the vein of protecting the larger student body. So I don't even know if if it would be presented to the Supreme Court, if they could make the argument that, maybe this is a better thing for the greater good. Net negative, though, I will say this is bad. This is bad.
This should not stand the way it is.
No,
it
absolutely not. We need to just burn this down and start all over, because
I don't know about burning it down and starting all over. Just amend it so that the privacy rights of children and their families, because this just doesn't go to them. It goes to third parties too. If the school has all this access to their devices, they're able to peep in to see what's going on inside other people that are not related to the school function.
Absolutely.
The families, the friends that are outside of school. It's insane.
I know. This story is just blew my mind. I knew that, surveillance in schools and technology at large was an issue, but I did not realize how wide sweeping this was, and how crazy it was that just an email could open up your device to complete surveillance. And something needs to change there.
So you have, speaking of technology, Australia was all poised to do a rocket launch, and then it wasn't. It didn't. Yes. What happened?
And so a unlikely suspect was the reason for this delay. A cockatoo was the reason. There was some electronical issues that triggered a system shutdown while they were trying to launch this rocket. It would have been the first Australian-made rocket launch. It was a big to-do, but that is now on the back burner. The actual rescheduled launch date, not clear. They haven't really announced that yet, but it is being billed as the single most destructive cockatoo of all time. And something I thought was funny with this flight is that this is an Australian-made rocket, the first to be launched into orbit, and it was supposed to be carrying a jar of Vegemite. I thought that was beautiful. The Australian people, man, they have such a culture. I hope they were playing some Men at Work, too, or something. That would have been cool.
Down under. Down under.
They're not going up anytime soon, apparently.
Thank you, Mr. Cockatoo. Lizzie, thank you so much. Such a pleasure, as always. Lizzie, where can people find you? Where can people find your new show?
Oh, well, our new show that's airing on the New York side of the Red Apple audio networks here, 77 WABC. It's every Saturday and Sunday at 5 a.m. But if you're not in New York, don't worry, you can catch it as a podcast. You can go to the WABC radio app or WABCradio.com. You could go there, download it as a podcast, listen to it anytime.
Excellent. Thank you, Lizzie, as always.
Thank you so much, Bo. Always a pleasure.
James Golden Snerdley here with you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah. Dire Straits. The date was August 10th, tomorrow. Wow. 85. The decades have passed. But Money for Nothing peaked across the pond at number 4 on this day. Of course, on the video, there's a cameo appearance by Sting, who also co-wrote this song with Mark Knopfler. This was the first video for this song to be aired on MTV Europe, when the networks there started 2 years later in 1987. James Golden Snerdley with you. Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Heavenly birthday tomorrow for Ronnie Spector, the co-founder and the front vocalist for the Ronettes. 1963, This went to number 2 in the United States of America. She married Phil Spector in 1968. It wasn't such a great, happy marriage, according to all accounts, according to her. Of course, you know, Phil Spector ended his life in a jail cell. Murder was the conviction. It wasn't Ronnie, of course. I was at the Hit Factory years and years ago. Hit Factory. I had to be with Omar, hanging out for some session somewhere. And Ronnie Spector and Phil Spector came in. And let me tell you something. Even then, Ronnie Spector was just so gorgeous. And Phil Spector was a little, how shall we say, a unique character, I think would be the kindest way to put it. A little different. Anyway, happy heavenly birthday to Ronnie Spector of the Ronettes. James Golden, Snerdley with you. We asked for people who have been waiting on the phones, calling. Let's check in with Greg in New Jersey, calling from New Jersey. Good morning, Greg. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Bo. How are you?
Great, thank you.
My question is, what are these Democrats fighting against? We constantly hear them using this phrase, we're going to fight. We're going to fight to the end. I don't know if you remember when Chuck Schumer and Maxine Waters and a bunch of people made this commercial about how they're going to fight. They all threw their hands up. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. What are they fighting? The fact that Donald Trump closed the border? Are they fighting the fact that he's trying to bring in hundreds of billions of dollars worth of business? Like, what are these people fighting against? They're like, we should stop calling them Democrats. We should start calling them the Don Quixote Party, because they're fighting things that don't even exist. Like, they're out of their minds, these people. But we always hear them, especially the one from New Jersey, Spartacus. He's always fighting. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. It's insane.
Well, they're fighting for their own power is one of the things they're fighting for. I mentioned during the week this Senator Slotkin used very dangerous rhetoric. She was saying that Donald Trump is a threat. He's an existential threat to democracy. And of course, that can incite, because what would you do with an existential threat to the national security of your country? What is she urging someone to do? But the real point is that the existential threat right now is to the Democrat Party power. Then you see it. You see it playing out in this, that I spent almost a whole hour talking about this redistricting. They care about their own power, and that is what they're fighting for. You can see, and why is that power important to them? Well, look at all that has been uncovered during the second term of Donald Trump. The slush funds, the money that they control, that they have been controlling. These are things that they're fighting for. They're not fighting for the people like they always claim. They're fighting for their own preservation as a political force. Now, since, by the way, this redistricting issue has come up, Donald Trump's poll numbers have taken a hit on this. And of course, liberals everywhere are celebrating that, but give it time. And so these things that they are fighting for, these things that which are their own power, maintaining their hold on the bureaucracy, using taxpayer money and taxpayer organizations and NGOs to funnel money through for Democrat power. All of these things are what Democrats are interested in. They are not interested in fighting for the people of the United States of America. Last on their list, James Golden, Snerdley, with you here, Saturday Morning Vibe. Need you to keep it right here and don't go away. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us if you want to be part of this, the Saturday Morning Vibe. Coming up later, America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Shrock. Stay with us. We have so much more to go. Whatever you do, do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And my friends, protecting your future this week. Big things happened in Washington, D.C. that could have tremendous impact on you and your financing. This week, President Trump signed an executive order that could allow millions of Americans saving for retirement by using their 401k plans to invest their money differently than they have been. Now, this also comes with, I'm just going to say it up front, a bit of risk if you don't know what you're doing. What happened? The executive order won't immediately change how people invest for retirement. It's got to go through a process now of regulations and changing existing regulations, but it could take months. We don't know how long it could take, but it's going to happen. Once they get through with this process, employers could offer a broader array of mutual funds and investments for you to use in your retirement funds. They would include cryptocurrencies. They would include private equities. So there's a potential for people in the private equity sector in cryptocurrencies. There is $5 trillion alone in the private equity industry, which people will now be able to invest in. At the same time, the crypto market, the digital currencies, are exploding, and people can invest in those too under this executive order. Therein, my friends, lies great opportunity, great risk. I've been trying to find out also if included in these private equities are precious metals and other things. You already have some of that that's available with publicly traded companies and so forth with mutual funds. But this is just opening up an entire different array of investments that workers can decide, hey, I want to do this long term. They come with a risk. If you don't know what you're doing in some of these markets, like the crypto markets, like digital currency markets, I would be very, very sure that I understood this before. Especially if you're nearing retirement and you're using some of this retirement income, I'd be very sure to figure out, to make sure you know what you're doing. Everything that goes up, sooner or later, what happens? Everything. It goes down. And if you're not ready, you saw the way the market panicked over this tariff stuff. People go, oh, my portfolio is dying. And they started selling stuff. And guess what? Stock market right now is doing so much better than it was. And so a lot of that panic should not have been a driver for the quote-unquote seasoned investor. But now you're talking about looking into private equities. You're talking about looking at digital currencies and putting that in your 401k. I wouldn't do this unless I knew exactly what I was doing, understood the risk of it, and manage your risk. And you know what? For younger people especially, you do these things when you're younger and your risk tolerance is higher. And so it's like, okay, and some people are going to do extremely well once these new moves take place in your it's going to explode some people's 401k. For others, however, it will be dangerous for people and I'm not a financial expert. Maybe I should talk to Grant. Hey, America's Small Caffeinated Mom, her husband deals with this kind of stuff. I need to talk to Grant, and I also need to speak with Mr. Bond about this stuff. Tom Bond, cousin of James Bond, because he understands it. He is. Tom Bond happens to be married to the Countess of Conspiracy, whose name we have never mentioned on this program other than the Countess. But I'm going to talk to some people about this, because this has, to me, as I read, and I pulled down the executive order and was reading through it. Dated August 7, 2025, executive order by authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. It's hereby ordered many wealthy Americans, government workers who participate in public pension plans can invest in or are the beneficiaries of investment in a number of alternative assets. Yet, while more than 90 million Americans participate in employer-sponsored defined contribution plans, the vast majority of those investors do not have the opportunity to participate either directly or through their retirement plans. And this goes on and on, page after page after page. But it goes on to say, guess what? You're no longer frozen out. Now you can participate too. And this, my friends, is going to change the nature of 401ks for those of you who work and who are investing in it. And I wonder if this is going to include like Roth. I don't know. Anyway, we need to talk to somebody. So I'm going to get somebody to talk to about this, because this is going to be a game changer for a lot of people who have 401ks. And protecting your future means you should know as much about it as possible. We'll help you do that. I want to get back to the telephones right now. Steve is calling in from Connecticut, and I looked at the subject line. I said, I got to take this call, because yesterday, Nagasaki, I remarked on the anniversary of Hiroshima, the Hiroshima bombing a few days ago. There was an incredible article in, I believe, of all places, it might have been it was the New York Times, I think, but it may have been Washington Post, written by a guy whose family was affected by World War II, and he was commenting on the fact that most people, when they talk about the atomic bombings, oh how awful, without any context to what was happening in the war. Steve, what are you calling about?
Oh, how you doing this morning?
Very well, thank you.
I'm so glad to hear your voice. Hope your cold is getting better.
Well, thank you. It is slowly, but
yes,
summer colds,
Yeah. So earlier this week, you were talking about the atomic bomb, and
yes.
What most people don't realize is that the plans were already drawn up. The soldiers were already on the way to initiate Operation Downfall, which was the invasion of the home islands of Japan. And there's every indication that if that had been carried out, it would have been an absolute bloodbath. The Japanese war planners were prepared to sacrifice upwards of 20 million of their own citizens defending their homeland, in the idea that they would draw so many American casualties that there would be such an outcry here at home that the war would be ended with a truce and not with an American takeover.
And you're absolutely right. And this is what was, look, and further, let me just say, we saw as a country what happened during the opening rounds of the Pacific Theater. We saw what happened, what it took for Americans to prevail at Iwo Jima, at Guadalcanal, and all these places in the South Pacific. This was, and that's one of the Americans at that point, the Allied forces, primarily America, we had never seen the kind of warfare that Japan was waging. Remember, the kamikazes were attacking our boat. They were deliberately committing suicide by flying their planes into the carriers when they realized they couldn't beat them. These guys were winning at all costs. When it was clear on many of these islands that the Japanese were beaten, as you just said, it was to the death. We're not going to give this up. We're not going to surrender. It will be to the death. And that was their mentality. they had spread lies, the Japanese government, about what Americans would do. Japanese citizens were told that Americans would cannibalize them. They would be literally, that they would be eaten and used as food by the Americans. Some of these people were so petrified that when Americans in these early islands, they committed mass suicides, civilians, rather than surrender, because their fear of what they had been told through propaganda was so great. So it was estimated at the time that, and you nailed this, that it would be well over 1 million lives of just Americans necessary in the Allied forces, necessary to prevail in Japan, which was why Harry Truman wasted no time when he became aware. Everybody, those students of history know that Harry Truman was left completely out of the loop by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Completely out of the loop with he did not even know that an atomic bomb was being constructed. He did not know about the Manhattan Project. So it was necessary. And one of the things I mentioned during the week was that the fearsome nature of this weapon has done something that we have not seen in warfare among human beings so far. It was so terrible that although it was deployed twice, and the bombs that we have today, the weaponry we have today is so much more deadly and lethal than those two atomic bombs, they have never been used again in warfare since. Every nation realizes that this is not where, as human beings, we need to go. And those were atomic bombs. Those were not even the first generation of the hydrogen bombs, which were much more lethal than the atomic bombs. And then you've had variations of the bombs after that. I'm trying to remember the name of the bomb that we developed, the neutron bomb, that would kill human lives and take human lives just as the atomic bomb would, but leave the structure standing. So you could do it without wiping a country off the map, literally. You could leave the building standing and still have just horrific lethality. But atomic bombs have only been dropped twice because they were so lethal and because the world got the message. Human beings have actually found a way to restrain themselves from using them ever again, so far. And let's hope that that continues. Steve, let me give you the last word on that.
Well, and just to conclude, to illustrate how many lives were saved, in March 1945, the Franklin Mint, in anticipation of Operation Downfall, the Franklin Mint was commissioned by the War Department to cast 1.4 million Purple Hearts. There were so many that in 1985 the Purple Hearts were refurbished and they are being awarded up to the present day. Good grief! But I did not know that. I did not know that. Is amazing. So let me just summarize what you just said. The Purple Hearts that were anticipated to be using with the military invasion of Japan are still being used because so many of them were made in anticipation of that battle. Yes. Yep. Wow. And then finally, Truman was in the artillery in the First World War, and he walked across fields of dead and dying bodies. So he realized that that was going to happen if the home islands of Japan were invaded, and it certainly had to weigh in his decision to employ the atomic bomb to end the war. Well, you know what, and I said the last word, but everything you say sparks something else.
Isn't it amazing that some of the people that I think about him, and I think about one of the things that Colin Powell, when he was running, said, and he said something to the effect of, and I'm not at all quoting it correctly, but it's to the effect of people that have been through wars understand how horrible it is, and those are the people in the military that want to find the ways to make it as to minimize the number of people that are going to be affected by it, because it is people in the military that understand how horrible that war is. Wow. Steve, thank you so much for the call. We got to take a quick break. Awesome. More of your calls coming up. 800-848-9222. Kevin, what's up with this?
1964, excuse me, the Beatles had 4 singles re-released in the United States. Do You Want to Know Secret? Please Please Me, Twist and Shout, and this one, Love Me Do, with John Lennon on harmonica, which I was
John Lennon's playing harmonica on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double down on that and say yes. But if somebody wants to correct me, go ahead.
No, you know what? We never played one of my favorite. We played it, I think, once.
What's
my
that?
favorite Beatles song? Maybe you can find it. Norwegian Wood.
Oh, classic. Off Rubber Soul, right?
I think it was on the Rubber Soul album. No, for some reason, that song always knocked me out. I love that song. I mean, I love so much of the Beatles music. Have you ever done a Beatles binge where you just go through like 2 or 3 hours of just Beatle music?
Yeah, you could do that by just listening to the White Album, though, which I do
that's
pretty
true
regularly.
James Golden Snerdley with you here. It is a Saturday morning vibe. Whatever you do, do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
August 10th, 1940, Bobby Hetfield with the Righteous Brothers was born. Oh, man. 1990. Unchained Melody went to number 1 in the UK. It was first released, of course, in 1965. Also, 1965, number 1, You Lost That Lovin' Feeling by the Righteous Brothers. If you have ever, never seen the video of of the Righteous Brothers, of the performance of this song on the Andy Williams Show, if I ever hosted a video show, a music video show of the best music videos of all time, the performance on the Andy Williams Show of this song, this voice, is up there with the most incredible vocal performances, in my view, of all time. The Righteous Brothers. Such a beautiful song, Unchained Melody. Okay, so, my friends, time is dwindling out. We have not even gotten into any other Letitia James stuff. So, what we did yesterday, and we went through some of the Letitia sound bites, and of course, there's all sorts of analysis going on with this. Let's go to PMS NBC, where Danny Savelos, their legal analyst, was on talking about this grand jury that has been put in place by the Justice Department, looking into New York's Attorney General Letitia James.
There is nothing scarier for a citizen to get a subpoena or find out that they're being investigated by a federal criminal grand jury. It's terrifying, and here's why. Grand jury investigations sweep broadly. They gather terabytes of information, and they're very efficient at going through it. And the problem there for people is that they may be investigating issue number one and then stumble across never before known issue number two when going through all those documents. That is why if somebody is the subject, the target of a grand jury investigation, that is not a good sign. So given that the federal government has such tremendous power to investigate, Letitia James should be very concerned. Not that she necessarily did anything wrong, but because that kind of scrutiny of financial records, of business records, everything going back probably years might yield something that the government finds interesting.
Yes, indeed. And of course, Letitia James, back down memory lane, cut 3, Kev, and speaking before the National Action Network, Al Sharpton's bunch, and this is it.
I'm not going to allow my ancestors, all of those who died for me, to be in this position. I am not going to disgrace them and disappoint them. I am going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity.
Yeah, severe ignorance and conscious stupidity. And we have others. We've been playing during the week Letitia James' greatest hits, if you will, the endless attacks on Donald Trump. Stay here, our number duo. We're leaving it with my good friend Patrick Burns. This is called Oasis. Coming back for our number trio. Don't go away.
Are you a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes staffers?
Oh, my goodness. Listen, I know that I have arrived, honey. That is the way that I see this, because as Beyonce says, if they're not talking about you, then obviously you must not be doing anything. You know what? This is just Beyonce? More slander, more nonsense, more lies. And honestly, I don't think that the New York Post would probably be the first ones to be able to figure out if I was a boss from hell. You and I were joking before we got on camera about all of the scrutiny that comes with being not only woman, but being young and being a black woman. There's a lot of scrutiny that comes my way, and it comes my way from all different angles. But when people start talking about you, that's when you know that you are obviously getting under their skin. So I am not going to give up. There's a song that I like to quote every once in a while. It says, "Your hate is my motivation." So keep hating. All it does is motivate me to continue to do what I do, which is to be loud and proud on behalf of the American people.
Loud and proud on behalf of who? Of course, that's the infamous Jasmine Crockett. New York Post wrote a story this week. It seems that she's following in the footsteps of another Texas representative now departed, that the dearly departed Sheila Jackson Lee, who had multiple stories over the years of how her staff was mistreated under her. New York Post story, Jasmine Crockett, a lot of turnovers in the office. People describe her as a no-show to work, out for herself, out for her to boost up her. And these are ex-staffers, people she hired, that are talking miserably about her. And of course, she just blows all it off. Welcome, our number trio, America's Small Caffeinated Mom will be along with us later in the hour. We have so many phone calls in here, and every week we run out of time with phone calls. So Princess Di is traveling today. Hopefully will be with us next week. I want to use the opportunity to play a few sound bites from all over. And we have some really interesting calls that I want to take. So I want to get started in Yonkers with Walter. Yonkers, New York. Walter, it says on my screen that you visited Nagasaki after World War II. What is that about? Walter, good morning.
Well, good morning, James. Well, in my wayward youth, I decided to join the Navy. And 55 years ago, 25 years after the bombing, I was on board a ship doing a port visit to Sasebo, which was an hour's train ride south of Nagasaki. So a bunch of us took the opportunity to take the train ride, walk around up there, and we received an extremely friendly reception from the people. As a matter of fact, one of them, a Mr. Yamamoto, came up to us and said, I will show you around the city and be a tour guide in exchange for me talking to you guys and getting better at my speaking English. It was a pretty good arrangement. He brought us to Ground Zero, the term that they use for the spot on the ground underneath the detonation of the bomb, and I was very positively felt by this. And then, doing subsequent research, I figured out a couple of reasons why things happened the way they did. Among other things, you'd mentioned that Japanese leadership realized if the war went on, several millions of Japanese would have been killed by starvation or by invasion. But into geopolitics, the Japanese leadership realized that there was a post-war, Cold War coming on, and America needed an ally there. And against the Soviet Union, China couldn't do it because it was being broken up by civil war, so it might as well be the Japanese. So they went out of their way to accommodate the United States. No sooner did the shooting stop, and besides, on top of that, when we saw how the Japanese people were starving, we had basically what I call a Berlin airlift before the Berlin airlift. We immediately started feeding the starving Japanese people. As a result,
and that was under the leadership of, wasn't it, of General Douglas MacArthur, who was the commander of occupied Japan.
But these were steps that took place immediately after the bombing, while Hirohito was still basically the man in charge.
I did not know that. That's pretty incredible. And of course, it was. Why do you think that atomic bombs have never been used since?
Well, 4 years after we had it, the Russians did. So it's mutual deterrence.
Yeah. Wow. So your time in Nagasaki was, and you said people there were friendly. They had you did not encounter any ill will toward you because you were American.
Zero at all, because of the friendly relationships that began almost immediately when the shooting stopped. The Japanese have become from hateful enemies. They become our best cousins in that part of the world, if not the whole world.
Amazing. Thank you, Walter, so much for the call. Appreciate you hanging in there, and thank you for that insight. Let us go to Long Island, New York, and catch up with George. We mentioned this story earlier, that Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is up in arms. Well, not literally up in arms, but the headline, at least, from the New York Times today, Mexico's president says U.S. forces are unwelcome in her country. This is in response to Donald Trump saying that the Pentagon is now going to become involved, the military of the United States, in wiping out these cartels that have caused so much harm, not just through illegal immigration into the United States, but also trafficking huge amounts of drugs. Some of them, as you know, imported from other nations like China. And while the borders were open, the cartels grew large and fat. And George from Long Island wants to talk about that. George, how are you?
Good, I'm great, Bo. I'm talking about the drug aspect of it. The cartels, it's terrible, but let's really be truthful. Per capita, we have a love affair with taking drugs in this country. Whether it's a kid in the ghetto smoking crack and other people smoke crack, the president's son was smoking crack, or rich people who hide it on Park Avenue. We have a love affair with drugs, and if you stop the cartels from bringing in drugs, that's good. You'll never stop it completely. It'll come from somewhere else. They don't want to address the problem of taking drugs in this country. So what do? They're starting to legalize marijuana. I'm not a doctor.
How would you address? Let me ask you a question, George. How would you address it?
Honestly, it sounds draconian. I was a court clerk. I've called you before. I worked in the narcotics court for a while. You have to start really sometimes punishing at the beginning when you get caught with drugs. If they make, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Do you know historically how the Chinese had a huge opium problem?
Yeah, they
in the early part. Okay, what did the Chinese do when opium was overrunning their country?
They would kill you. I know that, Bo. And I don't know what the answer is, but if you think stopping drugs by stopping the cartels is going to help, it may help. I'm really, maybe I'm an old guy and I'm ready to move off this planet. It's been a problem for years and years. I don't know the answer, but I think if you think by stopping the cartels, which is a good thing, because they do a lot worse things with bringing children in and for sex slaves and all of that kind of stuff. But don't think it's not an easy fix. So if you people, American people, in my opinion, I'm just an old timer. I don't know much. If you think it's going to stop the drug taking in this country, there's a deeper problem in this country. I don't know what it is. Maybe wealth and affluence. Even if you're poor, you have
no.
I don't know what the answer is.
I think that look. Number one, you've opened up a lot here. So number one, it's a moral issue in this country. It's moral. And that feeds into everything else. Now, I'm not saying that standing up on high, pointing my fingers, because I was a youth in this country and I came up during the sex, drug, and rock and roll age. And I will tell you that sex, yeah, drugs, rock and roll, definitely, and other music. But I asked that question about China because I've also had some experiences with some friends overseas in the South Pacific, Philippines, overrun by drugs, just like America is. And when Duterte took over, he went on a tear about the drugs. And one of the things that he said was that he would give users of drugs a chance to rehabilitate themselves. But if they did not rehabilitate themselves, he would kill them, pretty much. He even urged family members, and we thought this was so barbaric. He said to people, and this is not a direct quote, but this is pretty direct as to what he said. He said, if you had a family member and they refused to stop doing drugs, do them a favor and kill them. Now, we would never, a politician in America would never say that. Never. And that, by the way, I'm not suggesting is the official policy that this country should ever take. But I will tell you this. That attitude from the head of government over there changed the ball game. They went after not just the people that were selling the drugs and that were making profit off the drugs. They specifically targeted the users of drugs. Rehabilitate or you will be punished severely. And China did the same thing. China got rid of their opium problem. In the Philippines, for a while when he was there, the drug problem significantly reduced because people were afraid for their lives, literally. And I could go into details. I know how this affected because I know people there whose families were impacted by drugs. In fact, one son was a persistent drug user. And finally, what got him off the drugs was when Duterte pretty much, they threw this kid I'm talking about in jail, and they told him, your next step, you come back, you're dead. We're not just going to keep coddling you. You're dead. And he got off drugs. It had a profound impact. Now, in this country, we call ourselves civilized, and so what we're willing to do is we're willing to put up, because we are civilized, our approach is, oh, it's a disease. Oh, they're the victims. And we coddle the drug problem here, and we have coddled it for years. And it's always seen as someone else's problem. It's the dealer's problem. But you hit the nail on the head. This is a supply and demand. If there is no demand, then the supply side is taken care of. So you are right, I believe, when you say the only way that the drug problem in America, this drug, whether it's the recreational drugs or whatever, the only way that this is going to be gotten under control is to attack the demand side of the equation, however it's supposed to be done. And I am not, and I don't want anybody to misinterpret anything that I've said, I am not advocating that people be, quote unquote, executed or taken out for drug use. But there are other, quote unquote, draconian steps that could be taken to produce a much lower use of drugs in this country. And by the way, you see that in other nations. There are other nations that do not tolerate drug trafficking. They execute the drug traffickers. There are people in other nations in this world that if you traffic in drugs, you are going to jail for a very, very long time. No excuses, no compassionate releases. No, it's a disease. They don't tolerate it. And maybe that's what's needed here in this country. James Golden, Snerdley. Oh, man. Player. Kevin, why are we playing Player?
Born today, Peter Beckett, lead singer of Player, 70s soft rock group with this hit, 1977, Baby Come Back.
Oh, man, this is such a great song. James Golden, Snerdley, it's Saturday morning. Stay where you are.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Wow, the soap opera fans back in the day. And I didn't watch the soap operas. All I know, so I don't remember which one it was. One of you, somebody does out here listening. But this song was huge. It was played as in connection with some female starlet, some character on one of the soap operas, and people were going nuts over it. It is, of course, the voice of Patty Austin. Patty Austin, born tomorrow is the day in 1948. Went to number one in 1983. James Ingram was also on this song. And there he is. Both of them have Quincy Jones in common. Patty, Quincy Jones was her godfather. And if you go through some of his records that are just amazing, Patty was there. She also performed with Michael Jackson. It's the Falling in Love. She did a duet with him on the Off the Wall album, which was huge. Patty has had an illustrious career. She's like one of the insiders of the music industry. She had this number one hit, but Patty Austin was one of the go-tos in terms of her backing vocals, in terms of her lead vocals. Just an amazing talent. And I saw a picture of her. Patty used to be, how shall we say, a rather a big gal, but she's not anymore. And she's amazing. So happy birthday, Patty Austin. Just an amazing voice. And of course, James Ingram with this one. Somebody out there knows the name of that soap opera. I forgot which one it was. It was General Hospital. Okay, which I never watched. Kelvin knew it. Okay, and Kelvin, this week, Eddie Palmieri passed. We don't have anything from Eddie Palmieri in the library. And let me tell you of Eddie Palmieri, the stature of this man. He passed. I printed the New York Times article concerning his death. He died, it was announced Wednesday. And that article printed out to 14 pages. It begins, Eddie Palmieri, Latin music's dynamic innovator, dies at 88. Kelvin, because we mentioned this, and Kelvin was like, yeah, Eddie Palmieri. You're familiar with Eddie Palmieri, eh, Kelvin?
Yes, he was a favorite in my household growing up.
Yeah, he roped salsa with jazz, rock, funk, even classical music. Some people say he was creating a new world music. He was but he was a legend and one of the greats that sadly never got to be, I think, a household name. But he was just such an amazing influence. So, Eddie Palmieri. Anyway, more of your calls coming up. Some more audio sound coming up. Keep it right here. Saturday Morning Vibe continues. Do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Kevin said, don't call me for this story. Oh, my goodness, folks. Tomorrow's the anniversary of the Platters. 4 members of the Platters got arrested in Cincinnati, where beatdowns of white folks are okay if you're the local law, if you're the local Democrat Party. But anyway, back in 1959, tomorrow, 4 members of the Platters were arrested after a gig. They were found with 4 19-year-old women, 3 of them white, in various stages of undress. And it blew up into a huge scandal, resulting in radio stations across the entire country. Probably Democrat blues. Well, anyway, banning their music. So I guess that was one of the things that affected the Platters greatly. Still, Platters, one of the great groups of that era. Apparently, they were very popular among 19-year-olds and others. All right, we got phone calls to get to very quickly. Bridget in New Jersey, you've been holding. Thank you for waiting. How are you?
Hi. Let me actually take speaker because I know better not to do that. How are you, James?
I'm fine, Bridget.
That's good. I just was calling because I'm really concerned. I know that President Trump is going to be meeting with Putin next week, and I just get a little worried when Russia and the United States are about to get together because it seems like there's always something catastrophic that happens. And then, of course, Russia kind of closes the door. They get blamed for a lot, and I'm not, a Russian activist. But it's just the fact that I'm concerned because I know that President Trump last week, he did send those ships right there near Russia. And he did it based upon what the previous President Medvedev had actually made some comments. And I said, why would he do that? Because it doesn't make any sense. Number one, that's an ex-president. Putin didn't make those comments, an ex-president did. Even though he's on the Security Council, he's not the president of Russia. And I do respect President Trump. My whole family voted for him and prayed for him and everything else and still do. But the fact is that I don't rah-rah every single thing that President Trump does. And I am very concerned.
I'm still trying to understand why you're worried. What has you worried?
What has me worried is because it just seems that every single time that it looks like the United States and Russia are going to make peace some way, obviously this is in regards to Ukraine, that something happens and like either some plane gets shot down or something happens and then Trump will walk away and then Putin will get angry. And then, of course, because this has been through history, at least what little I do know, the fact is that Russia and the United States are the superpowers with nuclear power in the world. So the whole
you're leaving out China. Nuclear power is no longer just any. Yeah, we're the big three. There are 3 big nuke powers. Russia, America first, Russia, China, but then you go with so many other countries have them. Bridget, I understand your concern. Why did he do it? Because Medvedev made a threat to the United States. And he, by the way, is still a part of the government, even though Putin is the head guy. And so it's posturing. It's posturing. That's what that is, posturing. And Vladimir has not been cooperating with Trump. Trump has said he is very disappointed. I'm not worried about a thing concerning Russia. Look, Russia, they can't even handle Ukraine. This was supposed to be a 90 days and out war. How many years has it been going on? And Russia's been getting their behinds kicked. They have lost the entire upper echelon of their military that they sent into Ukraine has been deaded or neutralized in other ways. Ukraine was never supposed to be able to do what they're doing against Russia. So do you honestly think that Russia is going to open up a second front and dare challenge the United States when they can't even take care of this business with Ukraine? Bridget, I hear you, but I'm not worried. Let me give you the last word on that. Got to grab another call.
I understand. Look, it would be nice for once in a blue moon that Russia and the United States would still be able to get along on some front. And that's what I hope, that there is something peaceful that comes out of this, because Trump said he's a peace president. So I'm hoping that there isn't something that issues along the way with this meeting coming up that prevents that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much, James.
Bridget, always such a pleasure to hear from you. I appreciate you. Fred in Manhattan, New York. Fred, how are you this morning?
Good, Bo. Here's some lighter fare. On Unchained Melody, written by Alex North and Heiserett in 1955 for the movie Unchained. I always really liked Al Hibbler, who I just found out was the lead singer for Duke Ellington's orchestra from 43 to 51. But I always really liked Al Hibbler's version of Unchained Melody. There's a line in it where you really feel his emotion, where the song was clearly very real to Al Hibbler.
Wow.
And, yeah, there's you can hear his voice break. And I just really I just always liked his voice anyway. But anyhow, so that's one thing. Next thing is, I knew David Kapralik, who was Sly Stone's manager. And so I was able to go to Madison Square Garden when Sly was going there, And so one time when Sly and the group and David and so forth, they were all at the Hilton on 6th Avenue. So I went over there and I went up to this suite. And so everyone's getting ready to go to the garden. And so once everyone was ready, we piled into the elevator. And my back was to the back wall of the elevator. And so we start going down, and a floor or two later, the doors open. And who walks in? Muhammad Ali walks into the elevator. So he's standing in front of me. His back is to me. As I say, my back is to the back wall. So his back, he's very, very wide. And he looked so big. He looked like a mountain in front of me. This big, big man with these very wide shoulders. So he gets in the elevator, and they start bantering back and forth. Ali says to Sly, how come my wife likes you so much? And they go back and forth with that kind of stuff. So when just about as we're getting to the lobby, as Sly gets out, he says to Ali, I'm going to take you out, Ali. And he starts throwing shots at him, Now, Sly was maybe 125 pounds in his skin-tight white outfit,
Had to be a sight. It had to be a sight. I had to play. I never met Sly in person, but I did meet Muhammad Ali in person, and he used to do that. He was just so affable, so pleasant. You were in the elevator with two of the greats of our time, Fred. Thank you for sharing that. We got to head to a break. Coming up, folks, America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Shrock, is going to join us. So whatever you do not go away. Keep it right there. It's time for some music. I'm wondering what Kevin has in mind here as we head off to the break. It's this from Bread. Well, such a beautiful song. And it's been done by so many great artists. James Griffin, singer, songwriter, and guitarist with Bread, has a birthday tomorrow. He passed away in 2005. Heavenly birthday for him. But still, one of the great songs of all time. As I said, so many cover versions of this song, but there's nothing like the original.
The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We very rarely do dedications. In fact, this may be the first one. America's Small Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Shrock, is here, and from all of us on the Saturday Morning Vibe, we dedicate this to our very own Rhonda Shrock and her husband, Grant Shrock, who celebrated this week 38 years of marital, I want to say the word bliss. I don't know whether it's been all bliss, but it has to be a lot of bliss because they are still hanging tough and hanging in there with love. So, Rhonda and Grant, this one is for you. Good morning, Rhonda.
Oh, good morning, James. You're making my eyes leaky. Thank you.
Yeah. How are you, Rhonda?
Well, you've got me emotional now, but I'm a very happy woman, happily married, happy mother of boys, happy American citizen, happy friend, and just happy to be with you today, James.
Well, good. Thank you. So, Rhonda, what is on your mind this week?
In last week's essay, do you remember that I mentioned that our first car, one of the first vehicles we had when we got married, was an Oldsmobile? It was built like a German tank with about that same efficiency, and it was a diesel. I don't know if you have ever had a diesel, and I don't know if you've ever had a diesel in the winter. But those things, they're a pain. I don't recommend them. You have to plug them in so that the fuel doesn't gel. You actually have to plug them in the winter. And so I remembered one morning driving to work in the grip of a Midwest polar blast, and the fuel froze up and the car stopped in the road and left me stranded. It got me thinking this week about how, just like the fuel in my engine let me down, the fuel that a lot of us are using in our emotional or spiritual engines can let us down. If you have the right fuel, you will get where you're going. Your vehicle will run longer and it will run better. And especially if you are periodically tuning it up in addition to running the right fuel. So I was thinking about how important it is to do periodic tune-ups, emotionally, mentally, just overall character-wise. It is to our benefit to do a tune-up here and there to check for little pinhole leaks, little problems that might be sprouting that we've not been paying attention to that will become big issues down the road if we don't pay attention to them. So one of the questions I would start with for my own tune-up is, what is driving me? Some years ago, I was at a conference, and the speaker said this: you need to have a yes for your life and a no for your life. The yes is what you are very passionate about and what you will give your life to promoting, to facilitating, to helping to push forward? What am I passionate about, bringing to pass, helping to happen for other people? The no for your life is what you will give your life to stopping or preventing or changing. That will vary. The yes and the no will vary with each individual. What injustice are you passionate enough about that you will get involved and stand up and say, it stops with me? These are questions worth thinking about. It's important that we give some time to understanding what our overarching purpose is for our lives. Like the good book says, life is a vapor. It vanishes like a mist. And if that is the case, and we know that it is, we don't want to waste a single day. And so we need to find our yes and our no. And often those will come through our life experiences. The things that happen to us shape us in very unique ways. It can be great tragedy, a great tragedy that shapes us. It could be some great good, some great experience, or a very positive family situation that has shaped you. And so you have your yes and your no from that place. But usually we will find those by in what we have gone through or what we have witnessed. It can be both. For instance, I'm thinking right now of dear friends of ours who have been housing and loving a foster daughter who just graduated with our boys. And that young woman, because of what she has lived through, is going to start college this fall to be a social worker. It is easy to guess what her yes and her no might be. It is coming from her lived experience. And the pictures of her having her birthday just the other day with her new foster family, her face was glowing. So their yes has had a profound impact on her. I know two women who have worked as cooks in local county jails. One of them has had a son in a county jail. In those kitchens, their yes is clear. They are shining love and light to those young men, the sons of other mothers who come through their kitchen, and they're feeding them. What a beautiful example of living a yes and a no, because love always mounts a no to darkness and evil. Well, after you kind of know what your yes and your no is, it's time to use it. It's time to administer the yes and the no of your life. And that will be different for every person because we all have different gifts, talents, abilities, different circles that we are living in. And again, I want to say it is futile to compare. No one else has lived through what you have lived through. No one else has experienced what you have experienced or overcome what you've overcome. And so it's impossible for you to be someone else. It's impossible for someone else to be you. And we can't all be, if we're all like each other, what good are we? We need those different gifts, abilities, the different yeses, the different nos that drive us, and we need those to be placed all over the world. So you in your circle can do good that I in my circle am not doing, but I'm doing good that you can't do. And when you grasp that truth, it will bring so much relief because there's truly no need to compare. We are all one of a kind, and we are all needed in our respective places, circles, and lives. It's really beautiful when you grasp that truth. Now, about the fuel that drives us. For some people, it's anger. And there is a righteous anger, a righteous indignation that will drive us to do something right about something that is wrong. That is good. It causes motion and action, and it can set things straight. But when anger darkens and becomes resentment and bitterness, and we are living our lives fueled by resentment and bitterness, that is a dark path that we are wandering down, and we need to come back. Some people are fueled by hope, and that's what keeps them from giving up. So many obstacles. I thought about Rush, actually, when I was writing. He was fired 7 times. And he didn't give up. He kept going because there was a yes in him and there was a no in him. And he kept going until he found it, and he found his lane. And when he found his lane, he went both feet on the accelerator with his yes and with his no, and he used his particular gifts and abilities and talents and the place that he was at, the microphone that he had, he used them. He's a good example of finding your yes and no, and of the hope that doesn't let you give up. A lot of people, many people, are fueled by faith. And when you have faith in the tank, you know that there's a point to all of this. You know that there is a reward. And so you keep going because you know that one day you will see the results. Your faith will become sight. But the greatest fuel of all is love. Love never fails. Hope and faith, actually, we will not need one day because our faith and our hope will become sight. But love will never fail. And that love, if our tanks are filled with love, it will drive us to do and to be so much more than we ever thought we could do or be because of the love for other human beings and really the love for God. And that is a fuel that never runs out. It is never in short supply. And if we find that our tanks are leaking, we need to drive back to the source and get a refill. For me, the encouragement of other people and the edification and the building up of my fellow humans, that is my yes. And my no is to speak against the things that have hurt me and hurt others. So
Rhonda,
really my fuel is love.
Your fuel is love. We have to go on that note, folks. Thank you so much, Rhonda. RhondaShrock.com is how you can find her, and you can read her in thedailybs.com. May God bless each and every one of you, your families, and your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. Until the next time, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The James Golden Show. You can hear The James Golden Show Saturday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Greg Kelly here for Colonial Metals Group, China's leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II, one that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Kelly or call 800-655-5186 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.